Part 3. Agent Orange and Clockwork. Chapter 15. I remember the night before I left Joe. Joe had just gotten a snowmobile. He wanted to take me for a ride. I remember how odd it was to be let outside. I was already packed and had written him a letter explaining why I was leaving. Over 3 years, I had attempted to leave Joe more than 4 dozen times. I did the phone breakup, the tell it to my face breakup, the in the heat of the argument breakup, and the calm, sensible, it's not you, it's me breakup. Every breakup line that exists, I had used on him. If texting had existed, I would have tried that too. I hated the idea of a Dear John letter, but given the circumstances, his temper, and my weakness for him, I decided cutting him off cold turkey was the only way to go. After I left there, I decided to never speak to him again. We simply could not speak without him playing my heartstrings like an Irish fiddle. When I climbed onto the back of the snowmobile, the room and my memories melted away, and I could think clearly. I felt free. I think it was because I knew I was hours away from being released from my prison. So much went through my mind while we rode through the forest over the snows. I thought of how much I would be leaving behind, and I realized I wasn't. I was a thing Joe could have. He saw me as a trinket, a trophy he could keep, and I was strong. He knew that. Which meant if he was going to keep me, I had to be broken. I remember how dark it was that night. It's funny. I was in that room for 6 months, but I don't remember seeing the sun once. In my mind, it was perpetual night. I don't know why. I attended school during those 6 months, but I don't remember a single moment of it. Only that room, laying in the filth and the dark. It was the ugliest of blacks that forever suspends over my memory. The snowmobile hit a ditch and I bounced in my seat. It felt exhilarating, and suddenly I was free. I was glad to be rid of him. I don't remember anything after that, not the ride home or my leaving. I do remember crying in the kitchen because I knew I would never kiss him again. Then he yelled at me for crying, and I stopped crying right then because it was the first time I hated him. I loved Joe, I did. Even now, after everything he did to me, I remember his charm, his wit, little things that made me laugh. He could be sweet when he wanted something. He accepted me. That was enough. I mistook his acceptance as love. I know now it wasn't love. It was obsession. He was obsessed with me. Have you ever noticed how much the word obsession looks like possession? It's because they are nearly the same. No, Joe did not love me, but Joe had me. He accepted me. That was all I was worth. You forget, I held my value to that of a dollar bill, and Joe was willing to pay 20. In my mind, he loved me 20 more times than my father ever would, and I will never believe I'm more than that because my daddy told me so. The next day I was back at my father's house. I showered and felt like I was washing the filth of 3 years from my body. I scrubbed Joe from my flesh and my hair. I scrubbed every fold and crevice of my body, and with it, I restored my sense of self. I was finding me, developing, honing, and defining a sense of self that would stay with me to the end of my days. It was fresh and young and new, but it was there. I didn't fear for my cats or myself. I think after Joe, if Joe taught me anything, it was to abandon fear. Now don't misunderstand me. Beneath the dragon skin I was making for myself, I was very afraid, and fear would go on to ruin my life. But by then, being back at the war, perhaps, yes, that's what it was. The war was familiar. The war made me comfortable. I was a soldier who'd been returned home and didn't know anything else but war. Being back was like returning me to my element, and I wasn't afraid of the war anymore. I was afraid of love, of affection, of comfort. I was afraid of relationships where the danger could get close and personal. I was afraid of being touched. At my father's house with my half-brother, I could keep the threat at a distance and minimize the damage done. No, I was still afraid, but I was in control. I showered for 2 hours, and when I emerged, I remember saying, "Oh, it felt so good." My father remembers this too. It was a Saturday. The house was quiet. The sun was shining, and the internet was new. It was February 1996. I was 16 and single. For the first time in 3 years, my heart belonged to no one. I remember the hissing of the dial-up, the grating beeps of the landline being hooked up to a microphone. Seriously, what dipshit thought up that idea? That plink and welcome. The freeway was open to pedophiles eager to find prime victims at their fingertips. 3 days after I left Joe, I would find mine. Primed? William asked. Yes, I said. It takes a certain type of female to be preyed upon. There's a requirement. My father, my half-brother, and Joe had done their best to prepare me for mine. I popped the cap of another Guinness and downed half the bottle. I savored the beer while I thought for a moment before continuing. I need to prepare you. I don't know how to tell this part of my story from the victim's point of view. I hate the concept of victim. Victim is one who was attacked, wounded, and never survived. Oh, I survived and grew strong from it. I conquered my existence, stood above it, and declared, I will not be taken down, nor will you keep me. I am free. I am strong. I am not a victim. But I was hurt. They were the predators. I was preyed upon. I am no victim. To get through this next part, I must tell it the only way I know how, and that is to reverse the roles. To show you the mind of a pedophile as they see it. Maybe, just maybe, if you know how they think, you'll be far better prepared than I was, and maybe, just maybe, there will be a father who reads this and learns. When selecting your target, you want to move fast. Online predators have mastered the art of sitting back and scanning a forum for a target. They look for females who brag and boast, first sign that the target is insecure. Then they move in and feel her out. They ask about her, what she likes, what she hates. Insecure people often and easily talk about themselves when barely coaxed. Within 5 minutes, a predator can determine if the target is close to her father or not. You absolutely want a female who has daddy issues, because if the pinch and grab is to work, the predator must segregate the child from the parent as soon as possible. If the female has a good relationship with her father, this can never happen, and the predator knows it. The female with a healthy parental relationship will confide in the father they trust, and the father will move in to protect. The pedophile does this all while appearing sincere, genuine, loving, and affectionate. They compliment the target, tell her things like how smart or how beautiful she is. While they shower her with praise, they reinforce one message: I accept you. I approve of you. In truth, they are literally making notes as to what the target desires, dreams, and wants. They listen and reciprocate. The first 3 days are crucial for selecting a target. It's all about trust and earning it fast. Time is of the essence. I walked into that room, opened my stupid fucking mouth, and in a few boasts announced to every pedophile there that I was insecure and had daddy issues. Scott messaged me 2 minutes later to tell me I was beautiful. He asked me my name for such sweet words, and when I replied, he answered, beautiful name for a beautiful woman. I was 16. No one had called me a woman before. I'd never heard a bad pickup line before. At once, I was putty in his hands. Oh, and he knew it. I don't remember what we talked about. I remember blushing and smiling a lot. We were there only an hour, and he made me feel more loved than I had ever known in my entire life. On day 1, you want to select a target and study their wants, loves, hates, and weaknesses. Make an agreement to meet next day, same time, same place. This establishes a sense of dependency with the target. He came through for me. I can count on him. He is a man of his word. These are the feelings you want to leave her with for day 2. Always remember that time is of the essence. I signed off, smiling like a hyena on morphine. I couldn't stop smiling. He had me. Already I was willing to give him anything, all because he would accept me. I should be so lucky. I was only worth $1 after all. Day 2. Be prompt. Be earlier than prompt. Take her by surprise and message her with a compliment before she can even check to see if you are a man of your word. Joke and play with her. Use humor and flattery to give her all the attention she craves and will never get from her father. The next day I woke and ran to him. The grating, the dial-up, the cringing, the beep, the welcome of that stupid voice. I ran into that room, threw open the cyber doors, and slammed headfirst into his words. Good morning, beautiful. And just like that, he had me. I'd passed his first test. I would suck his dick. I would lick his shoes. I would build him a shrine where he could throw me down and rape me without me even knowing what he was doing. He played and laughed. We joked. He teased. He led me around by the few remaining pieces of my heart, and I willingly, stupidly followed. I was primed for what would come next. Once you've settled your target into a false sense of security, She'll have dropped her guard, which will prepare her for the next step. Shake her up, scare her, and you'll have her where you want her. After that, she'll follow you anywhere. Beneath her boasting and bragging lies an untapped fear of rejection and or abandonment. Play on that. The moment she is drugged on euphoria for feeling like the center of someone's world for a change, tell her you have to go. Do it fast, like ripping off a bandage. She will cling to you, ask for you to stay. She will beg, implore that you stay. Act uncertain and say little because you have to go. Give her no hope, no words that can sate her current fears. She must be afraid of losing you. Drive the sense of loss through her. Convince her that the only male who ever made her feel valuable is now leaving her. That acceptance you looked for your whole life? Yeah, it's walking out the door. She will beg you to stay and try to propose the same arrangement, which can become too complacent, and you could lose the target before you snag her. Meet me tomorrow? She'll ask. Dunno, maybe. I'm not really on that often, should be your response. Scarcity enforces her fear of loss and rejection. Use that. Then ask for her number, and if she declines, tell her you have to go. Do so suddenly. This will drive home the lesson that if she does not comply, she will be punished. You will need that later. Reinforce that she will lose you if she doesn't comply by replying to all her requests with indifference. Be brief. If she presses again, say nothing. Let her think she has already lost you. She will break because she finally found the acceptance she needed. She will cave and give you her number. And when you do, reward her with a smile, a few more minutes of your time, another compliment, then leave, fast, while the relief is still dumping adrenaline in her system. I have to go. He said the word so suddenly, so quickly. I felt like he ripped out my heart. I felt like I had done something wrong. What? Why? I have an appointment. Well, he did say he was busy after all. Well, when can I see you again? I asked. Don't know. I'm not on very often. Well, can we talk tomorrow? I don't know, he said. Maybe. I have to go. Well, what about tonight? I was nearly screaming. I couldn't breathe. I don't know. I have time to call if you give me your number. Maybe I can find the time. I felt sick. I wasn't allowed to give out my number. I can't, I said. Gotta go. Later. But when? Don't know. His tone was cold and indifferent. Bye. Wait! Silence. Please! I implored. Silence. 555-856-1742. I caved. Thank you, he replied, and just like that, I could breathe again. I think I have time to call in the morning, he said. Suddenly he had time to chat? Yeah, I didn't notice. I was too relieved to see he stayed. I'll call you tomorrow, he said. And just like that, he was gone. That is how you hook your targets. Shower with praise and develop a sense of acceptance. Make a request and watch her obey. Punish her with rejection. Reward with approval using gifts and compliments. All of this is impossible if a daughter knows her father loves you. If she knows her father loves her, and she isn't needing the acceptance from others. You want to keep your daughter safe from a pedophile? Make sure she knows you love her. Accept her for what she is, and she'll open her heart and tell you everything. A father who nurtures the love of a daughter protects her. Mine didn't. The phone rang. I looked at the clock. My father was still in bed. It was 7 o'clock. I ran to the phone and answered it before I had a chance to ring again. Hello? Hello, Elizabeth. Hi. I grinned like a fool, and I remember nothing after that. He told me how old he was, but it didn't matter. I was already head over heels in love for this 45-year-old monster. I was sweet 16, and eating out of the palm of his hand.